funny because now that you know that broadcast is a funny time to make a big straight conversation. No. Oh. This is a shirt. Hello. Too special.
Why?
It's weird when there's breaks or like we don't have any like in my breaks. I'll look at Tuesday, she like have a time, and I'm like, hello.
Congratulations.
I only have like 3 more. Meeting to order, move to roll call.
Senator Ponce. Senator Amaya. Here. Senator Bundy.
Here.
Senator Dokoto.
Here.
Senator Goya. Senator Hunt.
Present.
Senator May. Here. Senator Powers.
Present.
Senator Sayer. Senator Walker.
Here.
Senator Walton. Here. Chairperson Barrett Miller. Here. Chairperson Kaufman.
Present.
Chairperson Marshall. Here. Chairperson Peralt.
Present.
Chairperson Dichter. Here. Secretary Heaney. Here. Vice President Riley.
Present.
And President Alvord.
Present. All right, hello everyone. We have a very packed agenda today. One thing I just want to say before we start is I do kind of foresee that we would probably suspend the rest of the agenda if we don't get to all of it at the end of the meeting. However, if you do have class at 12, I ask you to stay till 1:55. I won't have the meeting go past 1:55, but just as a heads up before we begin. All right, so before we get into acceptance of minutes, I have a quick agenda change. I want to add an item. So motion to add Constitutional Revision Committee general updates to new and existing business after starter allocations.
Second.
Second. All right, and we'll have a voice vote on this just for clarity. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. So after starter allocations, we'll have the discussion about the Constitutional Revision Committee. And then henceforth, it'll be in committee reports. All right, starting out with acceptance of the minutes. Motion to accept the minutes from the 2/20/2024 meeting.
Second.
Are there any additions, deletions, or revisions? All right, hearing none, we'll move to a voice vote for acceptance. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passed. Minutes accepted. All right, starting with new and existing business. We are very fortunate today to have a special guest with us. We have the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences coming to introduce himself. Most of the other deans have been to a Senate meeting before, but this is Dean Davis's first time in Senate. So I'll open the floor for 10 minutes to have you introduce yourself and talk about anything exciting going on in the College of Arts and Sciences.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. It'll work if I'm here.
That's a good point.
Standard thing, something like that. I'm glad that I finally have an opportunity to talk to the room for a few minutes and entertain some questions as well. I've met some of you in different contexts, but it's important to have this context as well to have some conversations, but for you also to get to know me a little bit in the intersection between my personal passions and my professional goals in serving you and the rest of the student community here, and some of the goals we have for building the College of Arts and Sciences in exciting new directions, which is a shared goal, of course, that you have with me. So I want to talk about a few of those things, and I'll just start with a concept of outreach, which in a limited way I sometimes talk about where do we intersect our goals in building technological capacity for our programs with our learning goals for professional programs so that you can go out into the world and be your definition of a professional, but have these technical and technological competencies that are needed by every single career path. But as I've sort of evolved on my time in campus, I've recognized that that outreach that I want to do to you is actually a little bit more inclusive, and that I've recognized an ability to sort of transcend the concept of technology to a broader phenomenon that I think is to the key of the way that we learn and actually the way that we laugh and escape from the world, that ties into student organizations, the things we do for fun, but also the ways we learn. It's the concept or the phenomenon of immersion. And so my own scholarship, by the way, and I'll talk a little more about myself, I'm a biologist by trade, I'm an evolutionary biologist by trade, and I think about how systems evolve, how people evolve, and one of the unique and I think lovely traits of humans is our ability to become immersed in things, to escape, right? We do this in gaming, we do this when we read a book and suddenly we fall into another world and realize, wait a second, I'm on a boat out in the ocean. No, I'm in my living room. When suddenly you disconnect from that world. We can do that when we watch a movie. We can do this in all these sorts of different aspects of our life. And I've become very intrigued both personally in my own world, but also professionally. And how do we knock down the silo between the enjoyment we gain in immersing ourselves in whatever that is we do, and the attributes of learning through immersion, immersive learning, and using technology, but also low-tech approaches to immersion as well as an approach to saying learning should be fun. I think it's a bit of a meme to say learning should be fun. It's sort of like a selling point, right? Oh, learning's fun. Come here, learning's fun. We've said that forever, right? But actually using the concept of immersion and the fact that I think everyone's gravitating in their own way to an immersive environment on their terms as the approach for saying, how do we immerse ourselves in environments that for us feel comfortable, become safe spaces, become engaging spaces, and use that as the realistic base for a professional training environment. And this can be emerging technologies that we are building capacity for on this campus like right now. Many of you may have heard that we're working on building XR and VR, so extended reality and virtual reality lab spaces and pilot spaces to build into the classrooms and such. We want to have those kind of spaces because those are sort of high technology, leading edge technology spaces that we can use to both play and learn on campus. But I like to argue that many of our more low-tech environments, and I don't mean low in some sort of negative way, but let's say in sort of a traditional way. So the reading and writing environments we do, anything that engages those. So clubs that are involved in literature are immersive environments. And in fact, those are the cornerstone, the foundational environments in which we learn to immerse ourselves in enjoyable ways. So if you think of it that way, you say, but wait a second, isn't that what you come here to do, is read and write and learn those skills? So yes, the baseline of what we're trying to do in immersive learning has been what we've always done. We're trying to ask ourselves, how do we extend that, amplify it, if you will, with new technologies, extend the idea of just dropping the barrier. And whenever we can ask ourselves, this has become a laborious way to learn, where can we leverage technology? Where can we leverage what we learn about the environments we use to escape and have fun as an actual means to gain professional skills? Now, what's important for us doing this right is not simply handing you the solutions as students and saying this is the way we're going to do it, but working with you in partnership and in partnership in areas, in areas like this VR and XR lab, and saying, let's sandbox, let's play together in some of these spaces and come up with new ideas together. So that's an invitation for us to partnership in these areas from your own experiences, whether this is what you want to do in your professional path, whether it's what you're doing involved with organizations and clubs, and come forward. And I'm not going to say I have all the answers, nor am I saying that it all goes through me. What I'm saying is I want to be here as an advocate to support this concept. I'm happy to be there to help foster conversations of great ideas. And my door is going to remain open to just making some connections for us to think about how to connect existing clubs and organizations, how to think, and I think this is the bold area to do, to think about your personal passions, the things that are sort of within the domain of clubs and organizations, and connect those into the actual pedagogical curricular goals, the professional goals. Where do we find some intersections, some interesting experiments we could go there? And I think you're the key to that. I think you've got some ideas, and we need to hear those. So that's just an open invitation. Many of you may know I have a student advisory board for the college, and that advisory board has been very important to me in providing some of those ideas. We ask some of those open questions. So that was the main thing I wanted to make sure that I put on the plate, was an open invitation for us to, I like to use the concept of sandboxing, to Scrum, to Skunk Works, to whatever your term is, for have some open experimentation of ideas. As you very likely know, as the work you do here, you often have to come up with 10 ideas to get one of them to stick. So what that means is let's throw ideas out there of what we might build together. Open invitation. I want to make sure you're going to hold me to time, right? And
Yes, we have a few minutes left. Yes.
Okay, that's a kind way of saying it instead of giving me exact numbers. I'm going to do one other thing, which is tell you about my own personal passions, particularly if that means that I can be of service in some way to clubs and organizations and share that out with your colleagues. And then I'll see if there's some questions that I can answer for you. Again, hi, I'm Marcus Davis. I'm not just a dean. I try to dress up like a dean a little bit. I can only go so far. I'm always wearing my bands. Straight, nonstop since, I'm going to tell you how long ago, decades ago, when I started as a BMX racer in the, I'm not going to say which decade, decades ago, and I really haven't, I'm not saying I was ever cool, but I've tried to not lose sight of who I was. I've grown up being a racer. I'm into bikes, I'm into cars. I grew up around car racing and bike racing. I have a passion for things with wheels and racing. That's always been a love. I keep my bands on so I don't forget who I was as an undergrad and what my mission for coming onto campus is and thinking about what your experience is. And also, I just don't know how to wear fancier shoes. I started blisters. I'm stuck doing this. So you can always see my bands, but it's also an homage to who Marcus was back in it was the grunge era when I had the long hair. And I remember who that person was and try to always remember what that mattered to him as a student as part of my charge to all of you. I'm also a metalhead, right? You could figure that out when the hair was long. It'd probably still be long if I could grow it. I can't. So I have a passion for rock music and heavy metal and a little bit of old school hip hop too. So I have a commitment for music too and supporting the arts in that direction. I said I was a scientist, so maybe it makes sense I'm Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences then because of my interests. So, but my interest transcends some of the other colleges as well, right? So Society of Automotive Engineers are building buggies. I want to get in that and talk to what's happening there at Dean Taragi will let me, right? So I'm there to support those things. But with my technology interests, I have some interests that transcend those spaces. I'm here to be an advocate for the growth of esports. I'm here to connect all of our interest in gaming. I do a little gaming myself in a narrow window. I'm into sim racing and auto racing and virtual spaces. I'm even a Twitch subscriber. I'm not saying I'm cool, but I'm trying to make sure that I kind of understand what's happening there. And so, and I'm going to be building my own gaming PC this summer. I'm probably going to mess it totally up, but I'm trying to relearn some things because we're here to learn and unlearn, right? So I'm just letting everyone know that I'm here in some different spaces that may matter to some of you. And I've also continued to have a dedicated part of my time focused on DEI efforts. I've been a DEI director at a previous institution, and I here am standing committed to serving the diversity of our campus in all measures for what I can do to support ensuring we're building an inclusive environment. I'm going to yield the floor to any questions and what you need to do with your time.
All right, thank you. We are running low on time, so I want to thank you for coming in. If anyone does have any questions or comments for the dean, there are business cards there, and then feel free to reach out to the College of Arts and Sciences representatives. One thing I do want to say is I really do commend the advisory council that you have and the relationship that you have with the College of Arts and Sciences representatives. I feel like we have a very good line of communication. So thank you for that. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to grab a card and send an email. Thank you. All right, moving on to Student Alumni Ambassador Program, and I will allocate 3 minutes for this discussion. And we have a representative from Advancement to discuss this. I'll hand the floor over to you.
Hi, guys. I know that this is kind of way up here, but I'm just here to talk about a new program. I know that alumni kind of throws people off and think you have to graduate, but it's a program for current students. We're trying to build like a networking, mentoring program between our current students and our alumni now. Our alumni really want to know what our current students need, and they just really want to give back and pay it forward like someone paid it forward for them. So we're just starting this program for current students. Even if you are seniors, I know that the school year is almost over and you guys are looking to get out of here, but it is a good way to at least get that network of alumni under your belt and like just become part of that network so you have those resources. It will be a once a week program. Our first meeting is next Thursday, and we're just looking for student leaders who are passionate about Western New England campus and want to pretty much advance it and see it grow and see it become something better. Our alumni office is always looking for ideas to better the campus and make it more, I want to say, not more just welcoming for more students and different students. So we're looking for a diverse group of students who are leaders in all ages to put on events, help our alumni put on events, get networking and mentorship programs, and just collaborate with other groups on campus so we make this campus a better place for everyone and explore different interests. And you guys also get to become the founding members of this group, so you guys get to shape what this group ultimately becomes this year into the next year. So that's pretty much it. I have paperwork, I have QR codes, I have anything that you guys need for the information, but that's it.
Can you pass those around?
Yes, so I have single papers.
Perfect. I do really want to encourage any of you interested to participate in this. I love this idea. I've had the privilege of working with countless numbers of alumni, and it has been a very rewarding experience. And I'm happy to see that there is an effort to connect students with alums. I think it benefits our campus, it benefits them. I think it's a great opportunity. So I really do encourage you to participate in something like this. And especially being, a student senator, you all have great insight to the university. You know what's going on here, so you would be great for this also. Thank you for coming in. And if anybody has any questions, I can send out contact information and scan the QR code.
Yes, you guys can keep those papers. I don't need them back.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda, we have the cab bus trip discussion with other club concerns. And for this, I will allocate 20 minutes. So I'm going to start off. So this weekend, there was a cab trip in New York City, and there was an issue with the bus. I don't know the full scope of the issue, but to me, this is the last straw. I'm at my wit's end with this issue with ordering concerns. What hit me the hardest was after hearing about this, I then went and talked to another group of students about this concern, and I heard some of their concerns. And each person in this group represented a different club. They all had something unfortunate to say about the ordering process and all of this. I feel like we have gone, above and beyond to provide solutions. I know Chairperson Marcel has worked to ease this issue, but it's really unfortunate that this is what's happening to the student experience. I'm not entirely sure, what the issue is, but I want to bring it here to really elevate it. And the couple things that these issues can't persist. Again, I don't know what the issues are with the ordering. We've talked about them. They are, pretty clear amongst us, but I'm really urging members of student affairs to look into this. So I'm going to pass it over to Courtney, but before I do that, I want to say that I do have kind of a solution and a good news for this that I'll say after that we've kind of made some headway in this, but I want to hand it over to Courtney to articulate what a lot of concerned students are going through about this. Thank you.
I'll try to talk really loud. Can you guys hear me decently okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try really hard. So I'll also try to keep this really short because I wrote a lot. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, faculty, staff, senators, and students. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Courtney Farrell, and I'm here today to speak about the events that occurred this weekend. I have been involved on campus in numerous ways since my first year, which was back in September of 2021. I am the travel chair for CAB, the treasurer for the class of 2025 junior council, the special events chair for spring event, the president for pre-law society, the treasurer for ski and snowboard club, a second year peer advisor, a peer tutor, a student ambassador on the tour team of the admissions office, and a supervisor for the student telecounseling admissions representatives. So I have a lot of on-campus experience. This past weekend, excuse me, I had 2 big days of trips planned. On Saturday, February 24th, CAB was to take a trip to Broadway to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and on Sunday, February 25th, Ski and Snowboard Club took a trip to Berkshire East for the day. For this weekend to make sense, I need to rewind this timeline to October 23rd of 2023. Around this time, CAB began planning program proposals for the spring 2024 semester. Every spring, CAB takes a trip to Broadway for the day. During my first year's travel, we saw Hamilton, and students loved it. This is a trip where, regardless of the performance or day, every student always has an amazing time. I reached out to the theater to receive a cost estimate regarding the cost of a group of 51 tickets, and once I had that, I reached out to King Gray Coach Lines on October 30th, 2023, for a quote to New York City, a 301-mile driving trip. Attached to that email with a quote is the terms and conditions page. Since Saturday, February 24th, I could not help but keep scratching my head as to what had gone wrong. So as I was writing this speech, I did some digging back into my records and discovered on the terms and conditions page it states, quote, deposits or balances not received on time may cause this charter order to be canceled without additional notice. Deposits are due within 7 days after booking the charter. Final payment for the remaining balance is due 30 days prior to departure. If the charter is booked less than 30 days prior to departure, full payment is due at the time of booking, end quote. King Gray Coach Lines would have no record of our contract, which they did not, if they were not paid on time, because they had the right to cancel without notice because it was not paid on time. This is not the first instance where something is not paid for on time either. While going back into my records more, I found the conversation about purchasing the tickets. On October 25th of 2023, I received the invoice for the tickets, which I forwarded to Sam immediately. I then heard nothing and followed up via email on December 20th of 2023. I would also like it to be noted that the invoice said the payment was due by January 4th of 2024. On January 4th, after still hearing nothing, Chris Hillner, the group sales representative of Broadway, reached out to me with a reminder that my payment was due, which I once again forwarded immediately along to Sam. Once again, hearing nothing, I followed up with Sam about this on January 8th, 2024. On January 9th, Chris emailed me again and said, quote, does the group still want to see the show? End quote. I emailed him back saying, yes, we do, and he moved the due date to January 10th for me, but said, quote, I may be able to get about 1 more week if you need it for payment. It was not until January 9th that I heard back from Sam saying that it was all set. This was 5 days after the ticket invoice was due that I had given him back in October. I forwarded Sam the King Gray bus quote again on January 20th because I had not heard anything. Again, something I had said to him back in the fall. Fast forward to me believing everything was all set. I put tickets on sale on February 2nd at 11:30 in the morning and hosted a table stake to promote the event. Sam informed me that he would be out of the office. To no surprise to me, and my email overflowing with anxious students, university tickets were not up after I was informed that it was all set. It took our director of marketing, who at the time was on crutches, to go to Amanda's office and explain their situation, and Beth Hill calling Bridget because no faculty member was down at the table sitting or available in case something went wrong. Thankfully, once we contacted Bridget, things smoothed out and the tickets were sold. Sam then informed me that there were scheduling complications with King Gray and that he was reaching around to get quotes from other companies. King Gray then offered us an economy bus after several weeks looking for buses. Amanda reached out to me saying she sent over the signed contract to King Gray on February 22nd, 2024. However, the payment was never made. Come Saturday morning, everyone is super excited. Some of this is their very first time attending New York City. Some only get to go with Western New England, and some were simply just excited for a relaxing day in the city. The bus was to arrive at 8:45 in the morning at WNE and depart at 9 a.m. sharp. Please keep in mind that the play began at 1 p.m. and the bus drive was between 2.5 to 3 hours. At 9:03 a.m., as students were standing in the cold anxiously awaiting the bus, I walked up to Amanda and asked her where the bus was. She got on the phone, also confused where the bus was, only to hear that they had no record of our contract and they had no bus to provide for us today anyway. Between her husband, and I, we began calling bus companies to try to find something. It was already 9:15 a.m., If we did not leave by 10, we were going to miss the show. After calling Bridget, who called Caitlin, and calling bus companies, we were left with two options. Students must drive themselves or get a refund. I went downstairs and announced to all 50 students that those were our options, and to no surprise, there was a mixture of frustration, anger, and disappointment, for they all woke up early to get to the bus to have a fun day. I grabbed four of my friends and we got into my car and drove to New York City. I have never driven to New York City, so that was an experience. Although I was informed I will be reimbursed for parking and gas, that still doesn't make up for the 300 miles that I put on my car in one day, or the $56.25 that I had to put on my credit card, or the $40 it's going to take off my gas cards to fill my gas tank because I'm running on 22 miles left of gas on my car after that trip with the gas light on. Now backtracking a bit, excuse me. Bridget gave me her pro card for the ski trip on Sunday to pay for the lift tickets for the students, as that was what we were covering. She gave it to me Saturday before we left for New York City. Now fast forward to after the performance that my vehicle arrived at 1:02 p.m. for, and Jackie Stichter's vehicle arrived at 2 p.m. for, we decided to get a group dinner. I would also like note to be taken that there were 4 cars that went to New York City. My car, 2 other cars, and Jackie took one of the school vans. One of the cars never made it to New York City because they broke down on the way there, which would not have happened if the bus had arrived. At dinner, the 11 of us that were there were trying to figure out how to divide up the cost. I then remembered I had Bridget's pro card. I then had tried texting Bridget, asking if it was okay if we put dinner on the pro card because I was given her number as a contact in case we needed anything, along with a question regarding parking for Jackie's vehicle because they only accepted Zelle and Cash App and received no response, as well as called her. Naressa, one of the student leaders in my vehicle, called Amanda, who then called Caitlin and told us we could not put dinner on the pro card since it was not part of the original package. However, we were far past what was included in the original package. It was not in the original package that I would be driving myself to New York City. It was not in the original package that I would have to pay to park in a parking garage that I do not know how safe it is. It was not in the original contract that I would put 300 miles on my car in one day. The least that could have happened was our dinner being paid for after everything we had gone through that day. Not for nothing either, it would have come out of cab's budget, which I had $2,000 extra to spend since we did not take a bus. Thankfully, everybody that got to New York City returned safely, and the car that broke down got back here safely as well. However, once again, that is more money wasted from cab's travel budget because those tickets will not be refunded for missing the show. Now, moving on to Sunday. Prior to this day, I originally thought Christine would be attending the trip as she is the Ski and Snowboard Club's advisor. However, she had prior arrangements for a vacation and was unable to attend. I then assumed Sam would go, but he got sick and had prior vacation arrangements too. I then assumed Bridget would go, but I know that Bridget is struggling with medical issues currently. I emailed Bridget about who would be advising the trip, and she told me she would contact people to see if anybody could attend. On Friday, February 23rd, I received an email from Bridget informing me that nobody she reached out to would be able to attend, and she said, quote, however, that being said, Caitlin, Amanda, and I spoke and believe it will be okay that there's not a professional staff member present. I will be on call for you in the event that anything happens and you need assistance. You can call my cell phone number, insert cell phone number, if you need anything, end quote. I would like it to be noted that I texted that number 2 times and called that number once on Saturday while in New York City with students and received no response, and called that number once on Sunday and texted it once regarding the injury of a student and got no response. Christine then responded to that email and said, quote, it is true that we do not need professional staff to travel with student groups. However, please identify 1 or 2 student leaders who ensure people who got on the bus to go get back on the bus to return home. Give public safety an actual list of who got on the bus before leaving campus and remind students to program relevant phone numbers into their phones before they depart the bus and the venue, end quote. So I was the adult of the trip. I was handling all the specific details that needed to be taken care of. When I arrived, everything was going smoothly up until I received a phone call at the bottom of a trail from a student informing me a student fractured their thumb and were asking for me because I was the advisor. Thank goodness it was just the thumb. But whether we would like to talk about it or not, sports can be dangerous. As fun as they can be dangerous. What if he was getting CPR? What if he was unconscious? What if he fell off the ski lift and broke his legs? There was a person in the bed next to him with a broken leg. When I brought my anger and frustration up to Sam at Cab E-Board yesterday, he said to me, but none of that did happen, and it doesn't help throwing around hypotheticals. Those are not hypothetical. Those are real ski accidents that happened and could have happened. Again, Thankfully, all students arrived back to WNE safely. But again, there were students over the age of 21 on that bus in a setting with alcohol. What if one of those kids had gotten completely obliterated? I want to draw to your attention the whole reason CAB did not do any trips for a year. Last year, Evan Grocky was the travel chair, and he was informed he could not go on a trip without an advisor. So why then did CAB suffer that burden last year if we could have gone without an advisor? And if we did not need an advisor, why was Amanda going to go as the advisor on the Broadway trip? Being a student leader, being a student leader on this campus has changed my life. I want to put emphasis on student. I have loved making changes on this campus and advocating for those who feel that they cannot speak up. However, this is not what I signed up for. I did not sign up for all the stress, frustration, and anger. I did not sign up for mental breakdowns from not being heard. My first year, I loved CAB. It was a family. I look forward to it. We did fun things together. Now I dread it every Monday, every event. I am 0 for 4 on CAB travel trips this year. If I'm going to be expected to do the job of someone who works in student involvement, then I want my hours raised to above 20 a week and be paid above 15 an hour. During the early hours of Sunday morning, I was out with some friends celebrating a dear friend's 21st birthday. During our celebration, instead of talking about the fun we had in New York City that day and how excited we were for our 21st birthday, we talked about whether I should quit CAB or not. Because this is not what I signed up for. If I were to quit everything right now, CAB would lose a travel chair, Junior Council would lose a treasurer, Ski and Snowboard Club would lose a treasurer, which just had their first successful trip. May I add that the students who attended wanted another one. Spring Event would lose their special events chair, and Pre-Law Society would lose their president. CAB has already lost 2 of their key e-board members due to their growing frustrations and anger with student involvement. I do not want to quit the clubs and organizations I love, but I am so frustrated and angry that I do not know what else to do. The worst part of this whole situation is everyone was asking if I was mad and frustrated, and my response was, honestly, I'm not even surprised that this happened because I should expect nothing less at this point. I'm sorry, I sound like a mouse.
I do want to thank you for saying that, and I'm happy that we listened to the whole thing because I think it needed to be said. Because every week we have heard, smaller versions of these concerns, and then this is an instance of it bubbling up. And I think, a reaction that many of us must be having is that, I can't verify anything of what happened, but it's consistent with what I'm hearing from so many other student leaders. And we've tried to propose changes, stuff like that, but it's like nothing is happening. And so now it's just at that point of asking for help. I know, do you still have something you want to say?
Yes. So I want to thank Courtney for taking that well-prepared speech. And it's, again, as President Elborn said, these things just keep coming up, and it's just incredibly frustrating. I don't understand how many emails need to be forwarded, how many conversations and meetings need to be had for there to be, any more evidence to be shown that there's just improper leadership in the Office of Student Involvement and Connections. And I understand, and I appreciate Chairperson Marshall's, meeting with her committee to try and come up with those solutions. But I think that the solutions that they proposed were just a mere formality, and they're not actually going to work to implement them. I just don't see that as a possibility. I also think that administration and anyone in the leadership is very much complicit in all of this, because this is not a secret. This is something we talked about just 2 weeks ago, and these are just, and those were just scraping off the surface of how many issues that have been going on since this year, since this entire staff was hired and put into place. As a peer advisor, it's just incredibly difficult for me in my position to try to encourage first-year students to try and join a lot of these clubs and organizations when I know so many e-board members like Courtney and so many others that have to deal with this, just these incessant problems and issues that really shouldn't be the case. And I don't want them to have to experience that and to have to deal with these burdens. So it's a struggle that I have, even though it's my job as a peer advisor to encourage them to join these clubs and organizations so that they can have an experience besides just going to classes and stuff like that. And just based off of Courtney's speech as well, 3 people in the Office of Student Involvement is just simply not enough. I don't know why the decision was made to get rid of one office space for it, and I think that there needs to be additional support in that office with good quality professionals who actually know the skills and the development that is needed to support student leaders on this campus. Again, I don't know how many emails, how many conversations, how many meetings need to be had with the director, with the associate directors to show that there needs to be some significant changes, and I am just beyond frustrated.
So I do want to I have a positive path forward on this. So I was very frustrated after hearing about the cab trip because it really broke my heart, the idea that 40, how many students were going to go?
We sold out to about 51.
So about 51 students were ready for a bus that never came to New York. So that absolutely broke my heart. So I sent an email to Christine, kind of notifying her of this and the extent of my concern. And I had a meeting with her yesterday, and I was really relieved by this because she was very understanding of the concerns, and she, I think, is just as frustrated with all of us on these things that are happening. And so I will be meeting with her, Jessica Hill, and Caitlin Bevins, who joined us today. But I was very pleased to see the sentiment of wanting to investigate this and have a path forward, which has been elevated kind of outside of the office. It's senior student affairs. And so what I was informed is that I'll be meeting with them and that this will be severely looked into. And we'll discuss something on Thursday in e-board, and there will be some kind of update from one of the three of them on Tuesday. But I do want to thank Associate Dean, Associate or Assistant? So I can see it. Associate Dean Caitlin Bevins for joining us here. I think this shows that the significance that they are, really listening. That she came and sat in on this day to listen to the extent of the concerns, and then help figure out the path forward on this. But I will open the floor to any questions or concerns about this topic now. We'll go Secretary Heaney and then Senator Hunt.
I mean, in the meantime, before there is that solution implemented, what should clubs that have travel plans do, or like who should they turn to? I know that Skeens Sport Club has a volunteer trip on Friday to Berkshire East. Like, what now?
I have no idea. I don't know. I at the point where I'm not answering for that office anymore, so I don't know. It's sad. Yep. Other hand, Senator Hunt.
So to go off by that, I know in our e-board meeting yesterday for CAB, we were really going off about how they need to call in early to make sure everything is being in place, and if not, just so we're like a little more prepared, because like hearing this last minute was very unacceptable. And I remember being upstairs with Courtney with that whole issue going on, and like her frustration and everything, and everyone saying like sorry to her. Like everyone felt bad for what she has planned because she was really excited for this trip. And more of any other trip that just got canceled because there's just been issues with student involvement.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all going off for any other clubs too that have ordering issues, because I'll say this too, Cupola did have their Palentine's party. They did not go through student involvement for anything because they were scared that nothing was going to get ordered again.
Thank you. We have time for about one more question or comment, Chairperson.
I just want to, for everyone in the room here who might not know, correct me if I'm wrong. I do not believe that CAB has had a single event where everything they wanted has happened.
We've had 2. That's it.
Two events. They are our main programming association on this campus. They have only had 2 events out of how many weeks we've been here where they felt it was a successful event. That is laughable. We are a university, a well-known university. And right now, they love to say, come here, look at all of our clubs and our organizations. And look at how we're treated. We have clubs that don't even go through this office anymore because they don't feel heard and they're not dependable. How does that look on us as a university? They have open houses. They ask clubs and organizations to show up. And we're expected to lie to future students to come here saying, oh, it's great. Look at these opportunities when we are not heard at all.
Thank you. I'm actually going to extend the time to give it 5 more minutes. Are there any objections? All right, 5 more minutes added. The floor remains open for questions or comments. Chairperson.
Specifically when it comes to the ordering, these concerns have been heard since literally week 2 of last semester. This is getting ridiculous. Just to piggyback off of Steph's points about CAB, I wonder if there's other organizations on campus who don't have many student leaders and a ton of different positions who have been in those situations too, who haven't gone to student senate, who haven't made those connections and come to us when they probably should have. But there's a lot of stuff that we don't see because yes, we have a lot of clubs and organizations here. These need to be handled. It's been way too long.
Thank you. Floor remains open. Senator.
Going off of what the past 2 chairpersons has said, I'm just kind of, even with, because like you said, like second week we address these concerns. And then as much as like a lot of us students that are in leadership positions can like agree and sympathize with this frustration, I honestly, from a student perspective, do not feel confident that the administrations that are in charge of these things will have that same sympathy, and they're like, oh, okay, well that kind of sucks, so that happened, and then next event there it's going to happen again. Let's hope it's not a broken leg or a death this time. Like, you know.
The one thing I do want to say is I want to say with confidence, and we'll see how this plays out, that the conversation I did have with Christine, I trust that something good will happen. And because this is the first time that I have, as Senate President and the E-Board as Senate have appealed to her and Student Affairs Administration. So, for me, this is like the last, like the kind of like the last, shot that we'll give it. But I'm confident about that. What Christine told me was, it was enlightening, and I'm confident that with her, Jess, and Caitlin Bevins here, that I think they do care, and I think that something good will happen. Hopefully in sometime soon, but we'll see, and if things like this keep happening, then we'll figure out how to act as a student body to really combat this. But I can see how we are kind of at that endpoint. Yes, Vice President.
The only thing that I will say with that though is that it shouldn't have taken this long for us to get to this point. That's a check on us. That's a check on an organization for not doing that. But again, going forward, this should just not be an issue. This should, we went through a lot last year with no student involvement and no support, leaving students to have to deal with everything on their own and to not have anyone there. And the fact that we do have people that are hired and paid regularly to do this, and it's clear that there are student leaders who are not paid that are frankly doing a lot more, just does not make a lot of sense to me. And just speaks to the need for better incentives for clubs and organizations to have so that they can actually say that they're doing something. And getting shown some sort of appreciation for it, because clearly they're not getting it from this office, and I don't think they are going to get it any longer.
Thank you. Yes.
Sean, I don't know whether you guys met me a few sessions ago, but I'm Leslie Margolis. I'm the Chief Information Officer, and I did speak with Christine after the last session when this was brought up in general, and just offered that if we want to try to pull folks together and map out what the process is and what the bottlenecks are, so that we can get it streamlined for yourself, and she was very open to that. So I would just encourage you. I know I'm supposed to meet Elizabeth tomorrow. Yes. That's you? Okay. So I was looking forward to talking about it a little bit so we can pull in the right folks, get it mapped out, and try to solve it.
Yes, that's a good point. We did already try that though with campus relations. We pulled in the vested interest, and we're still on the issue, because that's initially what I wanted to do. I initially wanted to have that productive path forward, because I know, because even Chairperson Marcel did some great work with them getting the sentiments heard and sent out, but unfortunately, it felt like it just felt flat.
Do we have any of that documentation that you could share with me?
Yes. Chairperson Marcel would happily send that over. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go through Secretary and then Senator.
I also just pulling back the scope, want to say that this is a symptom of a larger systemic issue where students will repeatedly encounter bottlenecks in acquiring information, acquiring funding, transparency regarding where funding is going and how it's working on this campus. And I would invite whoever is concerned, whoever is looking into it, to also kind of open that scope and assess other offices where students are involved, because once again, outside of student involvement in other offices, we shouldn't be doing the jobs of others who are paid to do those jobs. And acquire that information. It should be available to students who are trying to access it.
Thank you. We have time for one last question, and Senator Hunt for comment.
Just to wrap it all off, I think we kind of heard what we all needed to hear today, and it's right. We've had that meeting with student involvement, and it seems like nothing has happened ever since. But even though they're saying that they have a solution, and we threw around that solution, nothing has changed. Even Senator Aponte works at student involvement. She said she hasn't heard anything from them. So I think now we need a directly put our foot down about this and make sure things need to be ordered, because Courtney's right. Student leaders are losing mentality. They're losing why they even joined the club in the first point. There's really no point, because all you're going to do is distress with student involvement.
That is a good point. So like I said, because I know, and I'm happy we had this conversation because I think it was a point where we needed to be elevated to this. But I will ask you all to have one, to have one last act of faith in for next week on Tuesday, because we'll see where this goes, and then we'll kind of move on past that. But thank you for the conversation, and now we'll move on to what's next. Golf club recognition.
Yeah, so at this time, I move for Senate to recognize and approve the golf clubs, or club golf in their constitution.
Second.
All right, we'll move into a 2-minute discussion on this topic.
I'll hand the floor over to Ranking Member Amaya.
I worked with Golf Club Representative Nathan Clark on establishing it as a club sport. This will be the 4th active club sport on campus, and it's my understanding that many students will benefit from this club as well as have fun. It has also been appealing to potential students. I'm a host, so I've been talking about it to some of them. Yeah, I'm excited to see what the golf club will do going forward.
Thank you. All right, we'll now move into a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. All right, moving into budget approvals, starting with spring event.
At this time, I make the recommendation that spring event receive an allocation of $153,000.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we'll move into a 5-minute discussion on this topic.
I will now hand the floor over to Chairperson Kaufman, who is the treasurer for spring event.
Yeah, hello everyone. So just some quick things I can go over with you all. Sadly, a lot of this stuff is classified because we're trying to have good business practices with spring event and working with artists. But just a quick breakdown of the budget. We expect the headline artist to cost $100,000, middle agent fees $10,000, venue needs or production costs / venue needs $27,000, food and rider costs or hospitality costs $3,000, special events $4,000, marketing $2,500, security and AMR $3,000, and then the emergency fund was $3,500. So that brings the total to $153,000. Just a little thing too, if you don't know, ticket revenue goes back to the reserve, and I believe the number I got from last year was $4,000 went back. So just as a little anticipated or goal, we're anticipating / shooting for $4,500 to go back to the reserve, and that's something that hasn't really been said before, but you also know. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. During my hearing with Chairperson Kaufman, the budget this year is honestly pretty similar to the makeup of last year's spring event budget, and it's actually $1,000 cheaper. So financially, is always happy to see that. And once the actual cost of the artist is disclosed, again, it's classified at the moment, so we're guessing around $100,000. So once the actual cost is disclosed to me, I'll just adjust it accordingly.
Perfect, thank you. The floor is open for questions or comments about this budget. All right, hearing none, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Senator Amaya? Yes. Senator Bundy?
Yes.
Senator Jokato?
Yes.
Senator Goyette?
Yes.
Senator Hunt?
Yes.
Senator Make?
Yes.
Senator Powers?
Yes.
Senator Walker?
Yes.
Senator Walton?
Yes.
Chairperson Kaufman?
Abstaining.
Chairperson Marshall?
Yes.
Vice President Riley?
Yes.
And President Alvord?
Yes.
12 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention.
With 12 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 1 abstention, motion passes. All right, move to pre-law additional allocation.
At this time, I make the recommendation that the Pre-Law Society receive an additional allocation of $1,075.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we'll move into a 3-minute discussion on this topic.
Yeah, sure. So kind of like what I said, I'm the president of Pre-Law Society. When I first got here, it was trying to be rebuilt from the ground up. and we've started to lose a lot of that momentum within the club. So as president, I'm trying to rebuild a lot of what it used to be my freshman year. And after talking with some of our students and my e-board, we want to take like an actual trip to see a different law school. Every year we always go to Western New England Law School, which is gorgeous, but realistically, Western New England is not everybody's law school choice. So we want to provide that opportunity for students who may not have the means of touring other law schools or don't really know what their options are outside of this. So we want the funds to be able to travel to other law schools, so that way we can see other opportunities and options.
Thank you. The floor is open for questions or comments. All right, hearing none, we'll move to a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. All right, move to Muslim Student Association additional allocation.
At this time, I make the recommendation that the Muslim Student Association receive an additional allocation of $1,782.50.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, we'll move to a 3-minute discussion on this topic.
Hello, everybody. I'm Razim. Those of you who know me, probably don't want to know me. Those of you who don't know me, so I've been the president of the Muslim Student Association my freshman year. I'm a junior now, and I kind of got forced into doing it this year. Basically, we've gone through some ups and downs with our finances. We had Sheila Hannafin, the spiritual life coordinator, about 2 years ago. Then she retired, and the spiritual life coordination group is not there anymore. So we've been running around in circles since. Every time we try to email somebody for some funds, we get into a 15-chain email, and there's like no end to it. So we're just like, you know what? We're gonna dig out of our own pockets, and that's what we've been doing for about 3 years. So each event so far, we've been estimating about $500 from each of our pockets have been coming out. About 4 or 5 people usually donate generously for the events. But thankfully this year we have Sean as president, and always emails us to the right person, and we don't have to run like bunnies. We're asking for roughly $1,800 for our events. That's what we kind of did the calculations, came out to. Every year we see students from UMass attend our event, Amherst College, Mount Holyoke College, AIC, Springfield College, Westfield State University, UConn. So basically we're giving you guys free marketing, and we're not asking money for it. But if you'd like to give it to us, I can send you my Zelle after. But that's essentially it. We would appreciate the extra funds. After this year, I would really not like to be president. I've got a few white hairs that I didn't expect to get. I'm, this is Bilal. I met him through the MSA. I don't know if he likes to be with me all the time, but I kind of force him to be with me all the time. But we've been working on a lot of school initiatives. This event is especially catered towards our Ramadan, our fasting event. We don't fast for 30 days straight. We'd be dead after day 3. But we fast from dusk till dawn for 30 days. And every year we have approximately 100 people attend this event, which is quite significant because the MSA started off 2 years ago with 6 members. And now we have about 50 people in our group chat. So that's all I have to say. I'll send you guys my Zelle in a few minutes.
Perfect, thank you. The floor is open for questions or comments about this. All right, hearing none, we'll move to a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Good luck with the event. All right, moving to starter allocations, starting with the WNE Bowling Bears.
At this time, I make the recommendation that WNE Bowling Bears be activated with a starting allocation of $250.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we're moving to a 2-minute discussion on this topic.
All I have to say for this one is that their constitution was passed at the last Senate meeting, so this is just their budget activation.
Are there any questions or comments? I know we talked a bit about the club, we know their constitution, so. All right, last call for questions or comments. All right, hearing none, we'll move to a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, move to the starter allocation for the golf club.
At this time, I make the recommendation that the golf club be activated with a starting allocation of $250.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I set my clock. We'll move into a 2-minute discussion on this topic.
And similarly, we just approved their constitution at this meeting, so this is now just their budget approval.
All right, the floor is open for any questions or comments about this. All right, hearing none, we'll move to a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. All right, as we voted on earlier, next item on the agenda is the Constitutional Revision Committee general updates.
Yes, you should have in front of you guys a very lengthy list of changes that we have compiled together in the committee that we are planning to make to the Constitution. This isn't the full Constitution, obviously, but I'm presenting this to you in advance of a vote of the actual Constitution, which will take place probably next week. So I wanted to give you guys fair notice to see what these changes will be and what changes we still have to approve, which we'll be wrapping up today and sending to the legislative committee for official approval before it's brought to the floor, which hopefully it will be because we worked on it. If you guys have any questions about any of these changes, I'm not going to go through all of them right now because the list is too lengthy. Please feel free to reach out to me directly and I'd be happy to answer any questions. But for the process of this and how this is going to be officially adopted as a new Constitution, this will be passed to the legislative committee this week. We will vote on this next week and is adopted by the Senate. Then during the election period, which is March 13th, we will put this up for an open referendum soon to be able to see a copy of the Constitution, the list similar list of these changes, and be able to vote on it. And if that passes according to the student body, then this will become the new Constitution based off of these proposed changes. Again, we will take next week's meeting to kind of go through these changes, make sure that everyone's comfortable with them before we cast the vote, so that that can be done in a thorough process. And then once it's given our approval, the student body approves it, this will be the new level. And for the next administration, this will not be implemented for this administration.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about this now? Yes.
So I just looked the last thing, the changes to be finalized.
Yes.
I saw cabinet student senate relationship. What does that mean?
Yeah, so we have been looking at, so obviously we have Chairperson Sichter, who is the Campus Activities Board President, in her role and stuff like that. We are looking to see whether or not that this relationship is necessary for it to keep both organizations together, and whether or not CAB should, essentially stand as its own standing organization and not necessarily be the programming organ of student senates. We have been in communication with some CAB board members who will be serving in the leadership next year to kind of go through what this process will look like. But as that kind of goes and comes, as we kind of finalize it on the Senate end, CAB will be shortly following thereafter with that.
Are there any other questions or comments? We'll have more comprehensive discussions on this, just as an act of transparency and time. We were gracious to hand this now, so thank you. All right. Anything else for new and existing business? All right, move to visitors' comments. Are there any visitors' comments? Yes.
Hello. So today I'm coming to you as just a WNE student. I'm not allowed to say the rest. But I'm giving you a preview of a letter that is going to be both digitally sent to Miss Goodwin as well as also physically mailed as well. And this letter is from Michael and Robert Maripoli, which, for those of you who are not familiar, are former professors of this university, as well as also the children of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, the first American civilians to be executed on charges of conspiracy to commit espionage and during a time of peace. Vice President Goodwin.
Wait, hang on. Before you read the letter, would someone like to motion for a discussion on this topic before we discuss this? Because there has to be a motion to discuss. So if we would like to discuss this and hear him out, can someone, I'll open the floor for a motion. And it would just say motion to discuss, and then we would have a second for that. Would there be a motion? Yes.
I motion to discuss.
Okay. Is there a second? Second? Okay. We will have, I'll allocate 5 minutes to this discussion. All right, sorry, you can read it.
Okay. Is it okay if I read the entire letter out?
Yes.
It's only like 3 minutes.
That's
but
fine.
Vice President Goodwin, we are writing to you to express our deep concerns about the recent decision of the university denying students the right to have a recognized local affiliate of the Young Democratic Socialists of America at WNE. Both of us have strong, long-standing ties to WNE. Michael Maripol is a 39-year veteran of the faculty and professor emeritus who introduced thousands of Western New England students to the principles of economics. Michael Maripol is a 1985 graduate of the law school who also taught briefly at the undergrad school and the law school after receiving his law degree from WNE Law. The rationale for denying the denying the YDSA recognition is that it is affiliated with a national organization, which does not seem to be part of any written university-wide or student senate policy that is known to students or faculty prior to denying the YDSA student organization status. As such, it appears the rule was created ad hoc for the purpose of denying YDSA recognition. Any potential conflict with university rules that it was anticipated was purely speculative and in any case squarely addressed by the YDSA members in their February 20th, 2024 proposed resolution in the Student Senate. That resolution expressly stated that local YDSA chapters make independent decisions on its chosen activities and events. Furthermore, in the group's proposed charter, Article 9, Paragraph 2 makes it clear that if there were any conflicts between something national YDSA did or said and university policy, the chapter would uphold university policy. In any event, given the decentralized nature of national YDSA, any national YDSA resolution or action that is in conflict with university rules would not be binding on the local chapter. The newly minted policy also seems at odds with past practice. While we were at the university, there were chapters of the Young Republicans and Young Democrats on campus. Neither of them were denied status because of their national affiliations. And it is our understanding that currently national affiliated student organizations of all types, undergraduate and graduate, political and otherwise, have strong affiliations with national organizations. We find it especially disturbing that Western New England University's administration provided guidance and an impetus for the Student Senate's denial of the YDSA application to form a WNE campus chapter. Given the deviation from past practices, it appears that university officials in a position to make decisions on student activities do not like the politics of YDSA and therefore have used their authority to deny these students the right to associate with a national organization of their choice. By making up rules in an ad hoc fashion for a routine request for student recognition, the administration of the university leads us to conclude that the reasons provided are a pretext for mounting a McCarthyite effort to limit political discussion on campus by excluding the views of YDSA from student and campus discourse. Instead of encouraging a broad range of intellectual discourse consistent with an institution of higher learning, the university is acting in a repressive manner that raises significant free speech concerns. We hope you will see your way to reversing this decision, given that there are DSA chapters at many public and private colleges and universities in Western Massachusetts and throughout New England. The university's reputation and public image would be damaged should it persist with such an authoritarian decision. We hope we do not have to take our concerns to the public at large. We hold the university in high regard and would hate to see its good name tarnished. Signed, Professor Emeritus Michael Maripol and Robert Maripol, Esquire.
Thank you. There's 2 minutes left for the discussion. The floor is open if anyone would like to respond, has any questions, comments. Yes.
I just have a question. Honestly, I've been kind of like confused with this. I know this has been brought to Senate multiple times, but I feel it. Yeah, I've just been confused every single time. Are they saying like they're just not going to associate with the name, or that you are not, that students of the university are not allowed to participate in YDSA? Go join a national organization, I guess.
So we've been offered like the option of being like an unaffiliated socialist group, which kind of just like cuts off the whole point of the thing, and cuts us off from access to outside speakers and the obvious like already associated good history of YDSA when it comes to protesting apartheid Africa or doing certain things in terms of prison abolition and reform, and other things of that nature, as well as also pushing for LGBTQ rights overall. And that the university is trying to cut us off from having that outside network, which would severely limit our ability to do anything, as well as also probably ensure that we last maybe a year. And so we've been told that we can't have it be tied to a national organization, which is inconsistent with the history of the university, which has a Federalist Society chapter at the law school, which is a national organization. It's also known for some questionable politics that the university doesn't have a problem associating with, but for some reason YDSA just goes too far. Often the communication isn't the most clear, and there's no written policies anywhere, and most of what we're being told is word of mouth in that moment, rather than something that we can look back to in any sort of handbook or guide.
All right, I saw Chairperson Kaufman's hand. Do you want to talk?
Yeah, just real quick. First off, you would be allowed to, communicate with, contact, and use student senate funding to go to things such as like a conference that would be put on by that organization. Again, the decision both from us as executives and from Christine was in regards to chaptering, and specifically with oversight. That is the concern. So, and I also condemn the usage of the word repression. As you said, you were given the opportunity to start a group that was unaffiliated and promote the same values. How is that repression if you're allowed to promote the exact same values and say the same thing? And our response has been, the issue that we have is oversight. To me, that makes no sense. So.
And the one thing I want to clarify is that the decision was made was by Upper Student Affairs with Vice President Goodwin. The resolution we saw whenever we saw it was just for us to act to protest the decision. It just so happens that many of us, some of us on the e-board just agree, but we didn't make the decision because it goes to clubs have to get the approval first before it comes to us. But in the interest of time, our time has expired. And if we would like, we can continue this conversation, next week. So if you would send me some kind of interest, but we'll talk about tomorrow. In interest of time, we can't pursue this. Legislative question.
Yes.
Does actually never mind. Sorry. All right. So like I said, if you want to pursue this conversation, reach out. We'll put it on the agenda. You can make a motion next week. But the meeting is at 1:50. So I'm going to motion to adjourn because I don't think we can finish the rest of the agenda. And I don't want to start committees. Suspend agenda. Sorry. All right. A motion to suspend the agenda.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So I want to.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I've been like pushing that I want
I got one from my barber last week.
it was like a starting He's right there. I'll let you know. Like, I'm trying myself. Yeah. I was good, but I don't. Okay. So like, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I get it. You're gonna be a sophomore next year, right? Wait, I thought you were like, or you're just like really new to Senate. Okay, because you kept getting put with all like the freshmen, so I was like, wait. They were just acting like. Yeah, you have no wrinkles from stress and confused.
Oh, thank you. I always forget to. Hey, Steph.
I saw it. So I